H.R.M. has a lot of nature on its doorstep. However, as the city continues to grow, it gets more difficult to manage these natural spaces. The Halifax Green Network Plan, however, intends to address these issues.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot.
The regional plan for Halifax calls for a Greenbelt and open space priorities plan. Basically, the Green Network Plan is an answer to this.
The Halifax Green Network Plan really, at its highest level, is a strategic vision and decision-making framework for the long-term protection and use of open space lands.
The Green Network Plan is the best opportunity Halifax has ever had to protect its natural assets.
Basically, the plan will identify what open spaces we need to protect around the city and how to protect them.
This is the first time that we've been looking at all of our lakes and forests and wetlands and our coasts and giving residents an opportunity to decide which of these really matters to us and that we intend to keep.
I'm heading out to Blue Mountain Birch Cove, the location of literally the promised land.
This scroll actually reveals that the real Jewish promised land is not the land of Judea and Samaria, but right here in Halifax, Canada. Yeah.
It's also an area that could potentially be protected by the Green Network Plan. If you take the bus 52, you'll end up at the Kent Supply Store, and it's right behind it.
Oh, that was a risky thing. We really want to promote this plan, get people out supporting it so that when it comes to council, it can have teeth, that this thing can really provide the kind of broad-based protections that we need to keep incredible natural assets like this that make it worth living here, that makes this quality of life so wonderful, and also so we can get a check on growth.
Now, not all the natural land outside of Halifax is owned by the city. In fact, quite a bit is owned by private landowners that might want to develop their property. The Green Network Plan would be of some concern to these people because it could limit how they use their land.
So right now, we're in the Purcell's Cove backlands at Williams Lake. And across the lake here has been a controversial area because it was proposed for development. Well, the residents here think that this would be a really inappropriate place for growth to happen. People use this lake for swimming, for kayaking, canoeing, in the wintertime for skating. There are all kinds of things you can do here. If we have development in places like this and that wilderness back there that relies on septic systems that can fail, you could really see the water quality in a lake like this go down, which has happened in a lot of the lakes in Halifax.
If a particular piece of land is considered to have multiple open space and community development values under this plan, that would, I guess, trigger or put in place a whole other spectrum of decision making. So, for example, municipalities can acquire, they can purchase lands. They can look at through, if it were a conservation kind of subdivision design, we can look at through design guidelines, we can look at shaping. So there's multiple things, multiple mechanisms that the municipality has.
And what would you say to someone that, was like, hey, I bought this land because I want to develop it, and, what right does the city have to kind of do something like this to me?
Well,
is there...
So, I live on Duncan Street in Halifax. I am not allowed to open a adult video store in my house because of zoning. Now, the fact is, the economic potential of my house has actually been reduced because I'm not allowed to sell adult videos there. But we've agreed as a society that it is okay to limit what we can do on our land for the better good of society. And there could be few greater goods than keeping our natural assets that define our quality of life here.
Protecting our natural environment at the cost of certain development rights sounds pretty reasonable, but there's also a very logical reason for why we might want to do this. A lot of these lands are located on the edges of the city, and that's not necessarily where we want all this development to occur.
We have recognized in our regional plan, and everyone's been saying it, we need growth to be happening in our main streets where we can have walkable, transit-friendly communities. And yet, we have been sprawling at an enormous rate. In the 20 years after 1991, Halifax grew in size by a factor of 2, it doubled in size, but the population only went up by 1/5.
The regional plan recognizes this issue and established goals for development that basically aims for 25% of development to happen in rural areas, 50% suburban, and 25% urban. But here's the reality check. We're nowhere near meeting that goal. Right now, we're at 28% development in rural areas, 56% in suburbs, and 16% in downtown. Basically, despite pretty modest goals for limiting sprawl, we still have too much development happening outside the city center.
So for every resident that lives here, we have to pay that much more for all the pipes, for all the roads, for all the fire stations, ambulance coverage, snow removal, garbage removal, absolutely everything. We have to pay that much more for all of this extra land that we've covered. We gotta get a grip on it.
One solution that some environmental groups have suggested is the use of a greenbelt.
So since the start of our HRM Alliance, our central goal has been to create a greenbelt for Halifax and all the communities in Halifax.
And it could involve one of these. Really?
Come on, man.
Basically, a greenbelt is a protected natural barrier around communities that limits the spread of development. British Columbia, Quebec, and Ontario all have some form of a greenbelt to help protect their natural spaces. Halifax already has a lot of green space outside of the city, but a lot of it is not officially protected.
The HRM Alliance, they're advocating for a very specific type of open space protection. Some cities have taken the Greenbelt approach. Others, like us, are sort of looking at it in a little bit more of a comprehensive way and looking at it as a network or web of green infrastructure, if you will.
The Green Network Plan has the potential to be a good start at curbing sprawl in the city and protecting the nature in our backyard. It is clear that considerations have to be made to ensure that we are not cutting off the rest of the population. However, it will be interesting to see whether this plan has any teeth or if it's all bark. That's all for me. We're PLANifax.
They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. The Pink Hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Yeah. Greenbelt, Greenbelt.